All right.
No.
We're on. We're being recorded. I'd like to call this April 16th, 2023 Advisory Board meeting to order. And I think I've already said hello to most everyone who's popped on. It's awfully good to see your faces and hear your voices. And I just wanted to say before we start off that thank you for still taking the time to come and have these meetings and for your commitment. And we're in it together. We're still doing good things. And if I know everybody's challenges are different, this situation has changed, your ability, you're looking for more to do, unable to take as much to do, just please contact me. Let me know. We understand. So with that, why don't we start out with the Secretary's report? I think we had meetings that got sent out to everyone, minutes rather. Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes.
And Angela, can I jump in real quick? I think we need to approve, do we have two sets of minutes to approve? Do we need to approve the previous? Didn't we miss the meeting?
I don't think we got the previous, we didn't have.
No, I think we just need to approve February because we canceled March.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So I would move to approve the February minutes.
Thank you, Jim.
Second, Liz.
Thank you, Liz. All in favor?
Shelley, aye. Aye. Liz, aye.
Angela,
Jim, aye.
Everybody else good? Do we need to call out everybody's name? Cassidy?
I think that will suffice.
Okay.
Well, just ask if there's any opposed, and assuming no one jumps in, it'll be unanimous.
Thank you. Are there any opposed? Okay. Move on to the staff report, Phil.
Okay. So we got a few things, and then I was wanting to add a budget at the end of our staff report, so Adrian can chime in. First thing, our small business emergency loan program. I'd like to give a quick update on that. As we all know, the city council approved a $400,000 expenditure to award loans up to $10,000 to our small businesses as a bridge gap to help get them through until any other federal or state assistance came down. So, Jim and Mark, thank you for your effort on that front. We quickly developed a program and got it launched, and immediately had a couple of applications come in. And so within the first 2 weeks of the program, we actually had 5 applications, signed 4 of those agreements, and got the checks in hand to 4 businesses that were extremely grateful for the city for developing this program. We've had a few more applications. So we've had 8 applications total come in. 7 of those we have signed agreements and have put checks in hand for those 7 businesses. The 8th applicant has since decided that they want to try to hold off another month to see if they can, to see what's going to happen, to see if they can make it through before they take on that extra debt. And so do we have any questions about the loan program to date?
Who were the additional 2? I know who the first 4 were, and the 5th who wasn't present at the festivities, but who are the additional 2?
Okay, I'll recap the first 4. The first 4 were Belmont Specialty Food with Luke. We had CJ and Emery with Catawba River Antique Mall. We had Jamie with Two Chicks Scoops. And then our fourth one was Majid Amalpour, who has taken over, is now the Everyday Market, which took over for previously was Caravan Coffee. That was our first four. Our next three were KBN Interiors, Kimberly and Ryan. They bought the building behind Caravan Coffee on Airline, but since it was going to make that their business, but about 6 months ago they started renting a building where we're in the River District, where Bynum AC Place was. So their business is there. So that was KBN Interiors. Then we had Magnolia and Vine. It was a business that was getting ready to open where NC Buddha was. They previously were in business with Poochie down at Surprise Me, and we're opening their own store. And then our other was Miss Grace with Gigi's Boutique. So that's our 7 so far. Any questions? No? Okay. Just kind of some other general business update. I'm getting an echo. Are you getting an echo?
From your voice, yes.
I think maybe it could be feedback. Maybe if everyone mutes while Phil talks, if you're not already muted, that might help it.
Okay. All right, thank you. So just general business update. I'm sending a lot of information and resources to our businesses, communicating with our businesses to see if there's anything else that we can be assisting them with. Not too many have provided any additional feedback or assistance. As you know, we had Happy Dog Cafe close their doors. Of course, a lot of and that is a permanent closing. We've had a lot of other businesses do temporary closings. But I just want, and we've had a lot of communication amongst some of our Main Street committee meetings on how we can best help our businesses. And so, and I keep sharing my thought. And this is my personal feeling, but I do want to share it again. I feel like our businesses were already struggling prior to this crisis. I truly feel like whenever we open the doors back up, they're still going to be struggling, and then they're going to even be struggling even more because now they're taking on extra debt that they're going to have to start paying back down the road. So that's my biggest concern for our small businesses. And so if there's anything that we can do to continue to assist them, that is going to be great. But I guess I've been spending time and looking for grants or looking at ways to, raise revenue to assist them that they're not going to have to pay back because, like I said, I feel like they were struggling already and their struggles are going to continue and be even worse. So that's my 2 cents there. So if you see any grants or any other resources, please pass them along so we can try to, get those into the hands of our businesses. Convoy of Hope. About a week ago, Adrian and I received an email from Kevin Jonas asking would we partner with a city partner with him and Elevation Church to bring in Convoy of Hope to do a distribution center in downtown. And so we've had a few calls in planning that. So you've probably over the last couple of days seen some information on that and volunteer efforts. And so This afternoon, about around between 2:30, 3:30, somewhere in there, we'll have a tractor truckload of food and supplies dropped off. Creative Solutions will be putting up like a 30-foot by 50-foot tent in the big parking lot between Bliss Gallery and Belmont Cocktail Club. So the city, David and his team will bring a forklift down. They'll unload all the supplies, the pallets of food and supplies, put them under the tent, and then tonight, this afternoon, between 6 and 8, some volunteers will assort those goods into bags or boxes, and then getting those ready. The police will ensure nothing disappears overnight, and then Friday morning, volunteers will show up at 8 o'clock, and then from 9 until noon or 9 until 1, Main Street will be a one-way street from City Hall down to the station and the animal clinic. And we'll have tents set up on both sides there in the middle of the block at the crosswalks in front of Happy Dog and Bliss Gallery. And so we will, as cars come down, there'll be 2 lanes of one-way traffic, and we will the volunteers will load the goods or supplies into the vehicles for people. And so we sent out the sign-up request, and it's my understanding that that is no longer working. And my only response is, I think it probably got filled up with volunteers. But if you did not get a chance to, and I know Jim, I think you sent out a message last night that it was not working. So if some of you would like to volunteer this afternoon or Friday morning, I would say the more the merrier. So if you didn't get a chance to sign up and want to come help, again tonight, show up around 5:30 because we're going to be working from 6 to 8. And then Friday morning, we're going to show up at 8 o'clock to get things ready to start handing out the food and supplies at 9.
I did hear from the lady at Elevation, and she said it's not working because they're all filled up.
Right.
And so I know you had sent the email that they had some things that you could do without a mask and protective equipment, but she said it's recommended that everyone have masks and gloves. So since I don't, I'm not sure what I can do.
Yeah, no. So I think Angela had sent me an email where they're going to provide masks, and at that point, I had not heard, and so I encouraged volunteers to bring your own. And then we were in a meeting yesterday afternoon, and Adrian, didn't someone say that Convoy of Hope was going to have some masks and gloves for people that did not?
I don't know if Convoy of Hope is going to have them, but the city has a few extra masks and gloves. So I don't want lack of a mask or glove to keep you from volunteering. So Jim or anybody else on the board, if you don't have a mask, don't have gloves, but you still want to volunteer, please come out and we'll get you an unused mask and some gloves.
Well, I appreciate that. Unused. Thank you for that qualifier.
And okay, so any other questions about the Convoy of Hope for this afternoon or Friday morning? Nope. Okay. Before I turn it over to Adrian to give us an update on our Main Street budget, is there any other questions of me? Anything that I've overlooked that you've heard or have questions about that's going on downtown? Nope. Okay. Well, we're in our budget development, starting our budget development process, and so I think Adrian would like to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So Monday we have our first budget workshop with the City Council, and it'll be via WebEx, so you can watch it. So it'll be a little bit different than what we normally do. Based on guidance from the School of Government and the League Municipalities and other cities and counties in the Charlotte region, No surprise, next fiscal year is going to be tough compared to what we've had in the last several years. Sales tax revenue will be down. That's our second biggest revenue source. We've had pretty much record development last year, so our tax base would have expanded greatly for next fiscal year. But I'm afraid some of that's going to be offset by people not being able to pay their house payments and certainly not being able to pay their taxes. So some of that will be offset. So overall, I mean, Belmont's in a strong financial position, and that won't change. It'll hopefully just be a 1 year or maybe even less than a year hiccup. All that being said, I think that the work that the Main Street program is doing is more vital now than ever. And some people may have seen the Main Street program as kind of a nice thing to have, but I think now it's an essential thing to have. So I'm not recommending any cut to the Main Street program. I'm not recommending any increases to it. So hopefully, you can supplement that with some DVDA funding, but certainly want to keep all the programming that we're doing and obviously keep Phil and Cassidy employed.
Thank you.
Yes, for next year. But one thing that particularly Jim and Mark, you'll see that's a little bit different than the previous budgets is we're actually going to break out the Main Street program from the planning department's budget. So the planning department has been gracious to host the Main Street program and just sort of absorb the personnel and operating costs as well as the programming cost with the Main Street program line item. So we're actually going to break out the Main Street program from the planning department. And eventually we will have our new City Works building completed, and we can move a lot of our operations over there. When that happens, I've got funding for an assistant city manager, and I'm going to, I just don't have space for him or her right now. So when we do have space for that new person, then I'll move the Main Street program out from the planning department formally and under the supervision of the new assistant city manager. So just in preparation for all of that, which hopefully will happen later this summer, early in the fall, we'll go ahead and just separate out. So we will have the Main Street program or Main Street budget as well as the planning department budget. And that way we can track, the personnel costs, operating costs, programming costs for the Main Street program. But for this board, the takeaway is that, while we'll be recommending some cuts in other areas, I'm certainly not recommending any cuts for the Main Street program because, like I say, I think your work is more essential now than it ever has been.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Sure. So any questions on the budget process timeline? We'll have our workshop Monday. We'll probably have a follow-up one in May, and then we'll have a public hearing on it in June, and it'll be adopted hopefully by the end of June and effective July 1st.
Adrian, I have a question, and it might be more appropriate for the workshop than here, but while it's on my mind, I know we've done the emergency loan program for small businesses, and some of the stuff I've read regarding funding and everything has made it seem like there might be some loans or funding available from the federal government to municipalities themselves. I'm assuming you're aware of any such information, and is that something that we potentially look at?
There has been some discussion. It's mainly grants for PPE and response, and certainly we're under an emergency declaration, so any costs that we've incurred since middle or end of January is eligible for FEMA reimbursement, but that's not really help for downtown businesses or anything like that. It's more of just stuff we've had to spend for remote working but PPE primarily. I've got a conference call with the League of Municipalities this afternoon to talk about finances, and they're going to talk about some opportunities for state and federal assistance for local governments. But so far, local government has been excluded from all the federal programs that have been created in the last month. So other than FEMA reimbursement, there's been no assistance for local governments. But if that changes, I'll certainly talk to our friends around the state and see what we're eligible for. And I will mention these bridge loans that the city council approved have been very helpful for a few businesses. I mean, if you've seen on TV, the federal government was totally unprepared for the influx of applications for the Small Business Administration loans and the Payroll Protection Act loans and grants. And so the need is out there, and it has overwhelmed the system. And so when it crashed the website, you can't get anybody to answer the phone. So we really stepped up and helped out, and hopefully we'll help those businesses survive until they can get some federal assistance. So again, Mark and Jim, I appreciate your work on that.
Yeah, and so if I can chime in too, Adrian and I both have fielded some emails and phone calls from other communities around the state, curious as to how we were able to so quickly have the money and develop a program to assist our businesses. So now they're asking, for our documents and all of our information, and so I think that Belmont was a leader in that regard. So earlier this week we made another big push on social media about the program. I did hear from one of our businesses, or Angela did, that they were having a hard time finding the loan application on our website. There was too many clicks to get to it. So yesterday, Cassidy updated the website. So on the front page, scroll down, we haven't, so we're trying to make it easier, or trying to listen to the feedback from our businesses to try to assist them. So.
Well, it was good to see that there was a story in I think the Charlotte Observer somewhere, where basically they were criticizing Charlotte for, well, why aren't you doing these things? Look, Belmont did it. That was nice to see.
Yeah. So, Madam Chair, I think that's all for my staff report.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Adrian. Certainly, Belmont is living up to its reputation of being a great supportive community. And on to that work that we do to help out with that, we'll start with actually, let me take about 4 minutes if it's okay. I had meant to just check in with everyone, since everyone's schedules probably are pretty different now. For some people, for others working from home, they may be exactly the same. So I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity before, I think we've got some folks that might have to drop off in a few minutes. If anyone's schedule has not changed and 7:30 is still the best time to meet on these Thursdays, please speak up now. So if anyone really wants to keep 7:30 on Thursday.
I'll stay with 7:30 on Thursday.
Okay, so very good. So it seems to work for everyone, and I just wanted to give everybody the opportunity to make sure, if we were all, at this point looking for different times, but we'll just keep on with 7:30. So next will be our committee reports, and Emily, if we can start with the design committee.
Yes, thank you, Angela. Okay, so AARP Community Challenge. This is actually a grant that, Angela, I think you originally found. And the way they describe it, it's focused on quick action projects that helps communities become more livable for people of all ages, and focuses on improving housing, transportation, public space, technology, and civic engagement. So we do have ideas for this. The award is based on the size of the project, and the application deadline is mid-May. So this is something that we're potentially going to go after and help make Belmont better. So I will update you on the next meeting on what idea we decide on, and if we were able to qualify and get the application in. Public art. So as you can imagine, we're trying to switch gears here and figure out, instead of having live events, how we can do things online. And we're lucky that we have Katie, who works at the Mint Museum, that is already seeing things in the art world going on. But we have a meeting after this one today to talk about, can we do live feeds of artists, maybe showcasing their work, or discussing how they're working through this time, maybe have a panel discussion online, maybe even think of murals that we can do during this time, because murals don't require multiple people in one place. So we are brainstorming things we can continue with around public art in the moment. Kiosk. We are in the final phases of testing and inputting our last information into the back end of the system. We want to go live before this quarantine ends so that we can thoroughly test the to-do and see category before the public sees it. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be live soon. Regarding the history walk, since this requires face-to-face interviews, this has been on hold, and we're trying to focus more on Trains on Main and getting the history together and finding a teacher that would be willing to refashion it so that it's appropriate and understandable at a young age. So if anyone knows of a teacher that would be interested in maybe helping us with that, if you could shoot me and or Angela an email, that would be fantastic.
Emily, if I can interrupt for just a second, this is Angela. I have spoken with Ron since our meeting, and Ron Folk, and he has a number of connections for that. I think at this point he's just waiting to, and I think Jamie had wanted us to go ahead and start with the history portion. Yeah, so I think he's just waiting to get confirmation on the stops so that we can make sure that the history corresponds. So we're just kind of waiting on some information right now, but I think he's got the teachers in mind that would be helping us, but thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And I kind of skipped over one, design guidelines. So we completed walking all three of the districts and noting the architectural features, the streetscapes that we see. Next step that our subcommittee is going to focus on is creating a vision. So for the River District and Chronicle, as these develop and renovate and change, what do we recommend they look like going forward? What makes sense to us and the community? So we are still working on creating these guidelines and would love to make a lot of progress on them during this time. So I will update you next month on where we are. Public safety. I did see, I think it was in this past City Council meeting about an NCDOT pedestrian plan update grant, and just wanted to offer, is there any way we could help with that? Please let us know.
Hi, this is Shelley. Absolutely. We are, the City Council endorsed us filing a grant to update our document, and we will need letters of support from other organizations helps the grant. So Tiffany Farrow, our new planner, is focused on transportation. She's going to do a draft letter of support and send it out to multiple organizations asking for them to endorse our application. So that should be forthcoming.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Emily, I'd like to jump in and make one comment about public safety as well. A while back, through the design committee's conversation around Main Street and Airline and making that better for pedestrians, we put forth an idea to the city about adding a public crosswalk from Stowe Park to the corner of Main Street and Airline, where the Evergreen Market is. And so if you have not, and which was approved and DOTD approved, so if you have not driven or walked through downtown over the last couple of weeks, we do have a completed crosswalk there from the corner of Airline over to Stowe Park, which I think adds so much more public safety for people parking on the Stowe Park side and walking over to the market and or the salon there. So so that was kudos to the city and DOTD for implementing that.
Absolutely, thank you. And we do still plan on having a group of, from my committee and others if they're interested, once this is over, walk all the districts and focus solely on public safety. I know I've seen just during my walk, some of the sidewalks are cracked and not necessarily good for wheelchairs and things like that, but actually writing these spots down and submitting recommendations. So that will happen once quarantine's over. And as far as design committee, that is all I have unless you guys have any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you very much. We will go next to the Economic Vitality Committee. Mark?
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Good. I got to tell you that we had one of the best meetings, except for me not being able to figure out the video the other day, when we had our EV committee meeting. I mean, it was really a great meeting. I was kind of apprehensive. I wondered how things would go with, this distancing, but went great. Couple of things that I wanted to talk with you about. I sent you a draft letter that two of our committee members, John and Jennifer Church, put together for our businesses. I couldn't agree with Adrian anymore that the Main Street program is probably more important now than ever. And, we're concerned about our businesses being viable and ready for business in the months ahead. It's going to be tough. And we looked at it at our meeting about how there's a kind of a different perspective with landlords and tenants on things, but we do know that they have different challenges. But if you're a landlord and you don't have a tenant, then that's definitely a challenge. And if you're a tenant and you can't pay your rent, also a big challenge. So we wanted to look at this thing as kind of a win-win situation. We looked at things with the landlord, for example, about how the Federal Reserve is encouraging banks to work with them with things like loan modifications with no adverse credit effect on the borrower. As a tenant, and I know, like I mentioned earlier, there's been all sorts of issues with the SBA, and but I think hopefully they'll get some of this straightened out, and they'll be able to get loans with the SBA Economic Disaster Loan Program and the Paycheck Protection Program. Hopefully that's going to get better. But we want to send this draft letter with your approval. We would like to send this out to all of our businesses, the owners and the tenants, and reach out to them and hopefully give them a little bit of a perspective on maybe what they can do to make things better. So that was one thing. Is there any discussion on that? Maybe you need to, I know I just sent this out because we met on Tuesday. By Wednesday afternoon, John and Jennifer had already produced this letter, and so that's why you didn't get it until this morning. But anyway, that's something for y'all to think about. If the board approves it, we would like to get this out pretty soon. Any questions or comments on this letter?
would everyone be, does this need to be something that's formally approved, or does anybody have any objections to that being sent out or comments on it? Or need additional time?
I think this is great because I think what it does for people is communication is good, and it is a really nice portrayal of both sides of this picture, because I think when we get in these crises, we get into a silo and we're not thinking about how does this impact somebody else. And I think just the ability for people to think about this from both perspectives probably is encouraging. So I think it's a great idea.
Thanks.
Hey, Mark, my recommendation would be, since we just got it and you sent it out this morning, let's give maybe through lunch, so that that gives the rest of the board some time to read it, to maybe offer up any other additional suggestions to strengthen the letter.
Okay.
And then maybe if we don't have anything, if the board is okay, then we'll send it out this afternoon or in the morning. I would like for the board to have an ample opportunity to read it, to make some additional suggestions if possible, to make it better.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, I think it's important to get it out quickly, but definitely folks need to take time to read it, and just, share your comments with Phil and myself, and that'd be great. The other thing that we are working on is a letter to our legislators, thanking them for their support, but also asking them for assistance. If anybody, we talked about this at our meeting, and sometimes it's better if you've got some kind of a personal relationship with legislators rather than, they probably get tons and tons of emails. So if you know somebody well, if you know a legislator, and you can reach out, that would be great. Phil is also going to be reaching out to, like Liz with the Main Street program, to see, what other Main Street towns are doing as well. But we're working on a letter, and of course, before we send it out to the legislators, we'll also get back with folks on the board regarding this. And that's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. So we can move on to the promotions committee. Sister Nancy?
There. So we had a good meeting last week and came up with some really, I think, different ideas that are not part of our work plan. The biggest one being the virtual 5K. And that committee has been working on that pretty steadfastly and quickly, because they want to run that from May 1st through 3rd. And so the website is ready to go, and I think everyone received a link to be able to look at it and see what you can do. You can donate toward the fund, and you can choose what fund you want, either the small businesses fund or the dog park. And they have the 3 days to do their run, and then they sign back in. There's registration forms. They've got social media ads they're working on, and Facebook event pages underway. Everything hopefully will go live today. And we're still looking for a prize package from Gove Gaston, and then we would like to request $300 from the Main Street to support the efforts in doing some different things and promotions for it. There's a press release that's ready to go once we have approved everything, and Jamie will take care of that. Where did I go? Okay, Jamie put the link up, or Cassidy did, I'm sorry. And so we we hope that this will be a good event, and I think part of the prize package, I think for the businesses, would be to put in a $10 or some kind of gift card as part of the prize package, so brings people back to the businesses once we're up and running again. So any thoughts on that? It's been a fast-paced putting it together. So I think, do I need to make a motion to request $300 from the Main Street budget to help support this venture?
This is Phil, Sister Nancy. So are we asking for the Main Street budget or the DBDA budget?
Probably the DBDA. That probably needs to go to the next meeting.
Yeah, so let's hold off on that, and then we'll put that in.
Okay, so any questions or suggestions about the 5K, virtual 5K? Okay, wanted to let everybody know we have a new committee member, Eileen Forrester. She came to our first meeting, and I think she's going to be a real nice addition to the committee. She has a lot of great ideas. And so she's already been put to work. She's serving on the virtual 5K committee. The next thing is the relief concert. That is very nebulous, but Liz has agreed to chair that committee along with myself and Jamie and Phil, Cassidy, and Mary Kate, who would represent Kevin Jonas. And Phil has been working with Kevin Jonas on kind of getting together the talent and kind of creating a day of celebration of when we can get back on, when things kind of loosen up and we are able to open back up. So, Phil, can you tell them what your conversation has been with Kevin?
Sure. We've well, when this first kind of crisis kind of hit in that first week when businesses started closing, I went to Kevin and said, Kevin, is there any way we can work together to put together a relief concert with all proceeds going to help our businesses during this time? And he immediately said yes, and we started kind of the conversations, and then kind of over the next week or so, we had a few more conversations. And so Kevin was all in. He said that he had some friends, good friends, and some of the previous, well-known bands like Chicago and Journey that he's already reached out to, and they're willing to support these efforts. Actually, Kevin and I are having a conversation this afternoon, and then once we have that conversation, Liz is going to set up a committee meeting next week. And so I think the overall thought is, since we've paid the deposits for our Friday Night Live bands, depending on what happens with the rest of those, I'm in constant communication with the booking agent that we've booked our bands. So our thought process is that maybe we turn this relief concert into an all-day music festival downtown, and we reschedule some of the bands from our Friday Night Live concert series to perform that day. But then also Kevin is working on bringing in some bigger name talent to be a bigger draw for bringing in a lot more people downtown to raise money and to support our businesses. So again, I'll be having a conversation with Kevin this afternoon, and then Liz and I will get together, and then Liz will schedule our first subcommittee meeting next week.
Perfect. Any questions on that? Anybody else want to volunteer for that committee?
I'd like to volunteer for that committee.
Thank you.
This is Caroline. I would too. This is Caroline.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark and Caroline. I'll add you to my list.
Sounds good.
Great. This is going to be a fun day. I can't wait to pull it together. I think downtown really needs that. It's just something that's fun, and after weeks of COVID-19, it'll be nice to think about something different.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing we talked about was a trivia contest. And this is still very nebulous, but the idea behind it was to use the history walk and getting people to go outside and walk through town, safely, of course, and then have some type of trivia contest through social media. So that's still very, very much on the drawing board, but I think it would be fun, and it would let people see what different businesses, where they're at, but also what's the history behind their building or where they're located. So that was that, and I think that was everything we had going on for promotions. Friday Night Live, of course, we'll wait to see when we can get that moving again and see when we can start them up, hopefully in the near future. Thanks.
Thank you, Sister Nancy. Does anybody have any questions for Sister Nancy in regarding to the promotions committee? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your good work. And I guess that, well, next would be our organization committee, and I'm not sure if it looks like we don't have Seth with us today. Organization committee did have a good meeting. I think what was on their list. Bill, do you remember what?
Yeah, so the organization committee was also talking about how they could have some type of like a trivia night and host it from different businesses to try to showcase different businesses, but also a virtual gaming opportunity. So Seth is looking into that software, or that, that we could actually look into doing something like that. And the main part was business outreach. So I talked about how we're distributing information, but we really talked about that communication with property owners. What other items or do they need assistance with? And so we've been communicating, reaching out as far as what other types of resources or promotions. And so that was the kind of the premise of that conversation for the meeting, the organization meeting.
Great, thank you for that update. So I guess the next up is the chair report, and I think a lot's been covered. I will just say that I think this has happened since February. The DBDA did create a website. I think everybody's aware of that now. And that website has a bunch of different functions in it, one of which is it connects people to the volunteer committee applications on the city page. It also has a place where people can email us directly if they're interested in maybe not serving permanently on the committee, but even doing a one-time volunteer. It has donation buttons, has information on our sponsors, has information about the programs we do, some examples of those. So it's already been successful in generating the new committee member for the promotions committee that came through the website. We've also had several other people who've emailed and said they were interested in, one-time kind of volunteer work, and I've been able to use those emails and forward, for example, what the city's doing on Friday. I forwarded that to those people who are interested in some one-time volunteer work. So I think it's a great resource. It's something I just wanted you to make sure everyone checks out. Keep it in mind. It's real easy to remember. It's downtownbelmont.org. So if you encounter someone who's interested in our program, either through sponsoring our program and wanting to learn more about what we do, or in volunteering in any manner, that's a nice, easy way to tell them how to learn more about us. so just downtownbelmont.org. And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention was the Main Street DBDA Facebook page is now accepting promotions of businesses. So Cassidy will, whenever she finds a downtown business that's promoting some sort of special they have, she's going to be able to post that onto our DBDA Facebook page to kind of help amplify their promotions and their messages to help them out, get the word out, because things are changing for them. And so if what we all can do is if anybody sees or notices through social media or whatever form that there's a business that's offering something new or different, you know, that would be helpful to amplify that through our social media page. Just forward that information to Cassidy. So if there's any other new business to us. Okay, so if we're good, do we have a motion to adjourn the Main Street Advisory Board meeting?
Jim, so moved.
Second.
Okay, is any all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
For the record, was it Sister Nancy that seconded, or was that?
That was Shelley.
Michelle.
Okay, so any opposed? Okay, so we are adjourned, and I guess we, Cassidy, do we still need to wait for the recording to be switched?
Yes.